Welcome to Roll to Save, the RPG history podcast, The Chosen Ones. Welcome to another episode of Roll to Save, the RPG history podcast. I'm your host, Iain. On today's show, we're lucky enough to be joined by the cast of The Chosen Ones, a podcast that chronicles the adventures of four companions in the world of Absalom. The Chosen Ones is different from most podcasts in that it is presented as a visual novel with beautiful animations and some fantastic visuals. I'm a huge fan of it, and I hope that after listening to this episode, you will be too. Now, before we get into the main part of the show, a quick word from a friend of our podcast.
Nat 20 on that perception check. You found The Wandering Portal, your new source of cute notebooks, funny stickers, and custom character sheets, all inspired by your favorite tabletop games and gaming media. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Wandering Portal. Are you a podcast host or an adventuring group with a killer name? The Wandering Portal is now taking commissions. Spice up your brand with a new logo. Turn your highlights into some merchandise that will grow your community. Contact us at thewanderingportal@gmail.com for more details.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Roll to Save. Today we're lucky enough to have the cast of the visual novel The Chosen Ones to speak with us today. Hi guys, how are you all doing?
Good. Hello. Thanks for having us.
Excited.
So we've got on here, we've got Cassie, Zen, Shanna, Ripley and Jay. Cassie's the DM and the other guys are the cast members. So I'm going to start you all with the same question that I ask everyone who comes on as a guest in the show. How did you get started in RPGs? What was your first game? And really, what drew you into the hobby?
Cassie, I feel like, has the most obvious answer, being that Cassie was actually probably the first person, in at least our friend group. Cassie DM'd a 10-person party at the start, and then it slowly whittled down to our main friend group.
We started with 9.
Yeah.
And then we went down to, I think, 5 by the end of the show. Or not show, wow. The game. I think Jay actually probably has the best answer for this because he's the one who started us role-playing in general.
Yeah, so it depends on what you mean by a role-playing game for my first role-playing game. Because I've been doing these weird imitations of D&D for a long time, since I was a teenager, where I'd just pick a number 1 through 4, depending on how close they got to the number I picked. That's how well they hit. We just do systems like that. But what really took off this group's role-playing obsession, I guess, is this forum role-playing game called Shadow Slayers, where one person makes a forum post of what their character does, and then another person makes a forum post of what their character does, and so on and so forth. And then we did forum role-plays for a while, but I think it was Cassie who decided to take it to the next level. And
I bit the bullet and started D&D because we did do text RPing for a year or 2 or something like that. And then we moved on to D&D after that, which I don't know. I feel like there's actually less stigma around D&D than text RP, which is kind of funny.
It's so sad because I love text RP.
I know you do, Shayna.
Okay.
It's really funny because Cassie brought up D&D. I was like, what's D&D? I don't have a PlayStation. I can't. I just didn't know that D&D was tabletop and not something you had to get a Nintendo or something to play on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My only experience with role playing was the forum role plays that we did. The Shadow Slayer stuff. And I mean, even before that, I don't know how to say it. Yeah. I know that's not kind of weird. So when I was in middle school, or no, not even that, elementary school, my best friend and I, we
Are you good?
This feels like a really dark secret about to come out.
No, okay, so basically, and I found out this term later, it was basically LARPing, live action role
I was
playing.
did you LARP then?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just playing pretend when you're kids.
Yeah, it was just playing pretend. So we wrote our own scripts and everything, and we would act them out. Literally no camera. We would just act them out. That's kind of what started like my creative energy, like this creative side to me, because I don't know, it was doing that was just so much fun to me, and I enjoyed playing as characters that weren't myself and diving into somebody else's life and developing their story. And the forum role plays was less energy was required to participate in those. Yeah, so that's just my experience. I started with LARPing, I guess.
And Cassie, did you choose to be the DM? Was it thrust upon you, or are you just a power-crazed maniac?
In high school, we played something that we called D&D that definitely is not D&D. Looking back now, we just slapped the label of D&D on it. I don't think we ever followed any rules in the book. There were no spell slots. There was nothing. I don't even know if we played 3E or 4 or whatever what it was, but I did play some of that in high school. And I had done like a little, I guess, one shot for our DM so that way he could play. So technically I had the most experience. But when we actually did our session 0 to create our characters and stuff, I learned whatever we played, like I said, was not D&D. And I had to kind of relearn everything. And still to this day, I probably in our friend group am one of the people who I'm like middling in terms of knowing the rules and stuff. Usually I cut out the parts in the game where I ask people because I forget things. We will be in the middle of combat and someone will do something and I'll have to ask questions and be like, I am horrible at remembering how to grapple. That's the number one thing. I always forget how to do it. And you would think I would engrave it into my brain with how often I have to ask people when they grapple, but it's stuff like that that's just like, I trust people who I play with to correct me and to know the rules. And as long as you're not doing it in a way that's like disruptive to the session, it's not like a big deal to step in and be like, actually, that's how that rule's supposed to work, or that component or whatever. So. But yeah, I was the one who started just kind of to get us going because the other games that we were playing at the time had kind of all died and fizzled out. And I felt like as a friend group, we were all starting to kind of drift away from each other again. And so I did D&D as a kind of new effort to kind of like spark our friendship again, since we didn't have role playing really anymore.
You said spark, oh my God!
Now it's all we do.
This is a little bit of a side tangent, but I literally have a character who I've gone all the way up to level 9, and he has a grapple build. He grapples like every turn. I still forget how grappling works.
Yeah, I mean, I've read the D&D rulebook, 5e, cover to cover, and I mean, it's empty up here. I just can't. I have fun reading it, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I never like employ it, so it gets forgotten.
Yeah, I think it's something everyone suffers from. I've got, on the other side of my office here, dozens of RPGs. I can never remember chase rules. Loads of games have rules for chases and pursuit. And I don't know if it's either I just get turned off by them or I ignore them. I can never remember how to do them, and inevitably it comes up and I just wing it and make it up, and it's usually complete nonsense.
You could see like the look of confusion on my face. I was like, there are chase rules?
There we go. See, every day is a school day. Now, you mentioned session 0 for your game, and it's quite a nice segue into what my next question is. There's a lot of actual play podcasts out there that go straight into the quote-unquote adventure. Literally within 20 minutes, people are fighting things and there's blood and guts flying everywhere. In the chosen ones, a lot of your initial episodes are spent establishing character. So for the members of the cast, how do you all feel this has gone to making the story what it is?
Chosen Ones is definitely more focused on the narrative than I would say like just fighting and everything. And so starting the way we did, which was going into like the characters, their history, their backstory, kind of where they're from. I think that really kind of set the stage for the audience to get to know who these characters are, because we are, how do you say? Okay, because we're a series, and a visual novel one at that. For the audience to know the characters and kind of put words and faces to them and personalities to them, I think that was our main goal in that. So it wasn't just for us to fight stuff and like use our super cool abilities. It was more so for, I think that the first couple sessions we did was so that not only we could understand our characters more and who we're playing with, but also for the audience to kind of get familiar with them.
Yeah, because I would also say it definitely harkens back to what we like the text role plays that we used to do. We are all very much, I feel, more so about telling a story rather than playing the game itself. We're much more interested in the aspect of like D&D can be used to tell really cool narratives, and if there's combat in there, then yeah. But I think, I mean, for me personally at least, I think characters' internal struggle is a lot more engaging than a character's like external struggle, because like anybody in D&D can kill like a dragon, or I think we all are so focused on developing characters and their relationships with each other and the world around them that it just naturally became like less of a we want to go out and adventure and fight things, and more so we want to see how our stories interact with one another and where those relationships go and whatnot.
In fact, combat is like one of my least favorite parts of D&D. I far prefer a nice little scene with like one-on-one with my character and another character, whether I get something out about my character's emotions or struggle or history, or they get something out of theirs. I far prefer the connections that you can make through characters than I do kicking a giant spider. I really, it's just not as engaging to me as relationships are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chosen Ones is formulated in a way it really helps you to get to know the individual characters' personalities and stories. Like the first session, it started with where they came from, and it started with info about their backstory. And then later sessions, like Peter had like a magic confession booth that allowed them to talk to someone from their past. A lot of little things like that throughout Chosen Ones emphasizes all the different characters and stories going on.
Mm-hmm. And we've tried to play some D&D campaigns where there was no overarching plot, there was really no narrative, and we ended up making a narrative anyway. It's partially, just because of how we are as players, we all kind of gravitate towards each other. We all kind of have similar preferences. But I know that when I talk to like people from my workplace about D&D, they'll play like, adventures, running the book. They just want to have fun, like just in the moment. They just want to have fun. I like being in for the long run. I think that's what garners my attention a little
We're
bit more.
A story with rules, I think, is the best way to put it. We're not like a combat encounter with some story tossed in. We definitely focus more on the aspect of role playing, and if combat comes up, we try as much as possible to keep that combat relevant to the story. So there's no just like, random encounters just cause. They almost always have a purpose. Even our like intro fight, which is like episode 6 or something like that, where they fight a goblin in the library. Even that still had like a narrative purpose behind it. And that's kind of like how we try and deal with most of our combats, if not all of them, is they all have a reason for why they're happening. And it's not just so the characters can go whack.
Even with our combat, we tend to kind of make it about the characters still, like about how they're feeling still, because like, the character Brandy will stand in front of Theo so Theo doesn't get hit. Or Shui's going to run up and kind of ask questions or be curious or see what's going on. And Aviath will just annihilate. But like to his character, that's what he would do. And we always, even in combat, we will have role-playing moments of like, hey, are you okay? Like, is there any way I can help or something like that? Combat in itself is not as fun to me, at least, but you get something out of it if your character is like challenged, and it means more when there's less of it.
Zen, you summed up quite nicely there when it said that you all have the same preferences for the game. I think that very much comes across. I used to run a game many moons ago. It was sort of like a 25-player vampire LARP.
25-player vampire LARP?
Yeah, as a games master for that, I would have loved if all the players had the same preference for the sort of game they wanted to play, i.e. the sort I wanted to play. And the problem was you could never get that. And therefore, you're trying to cater to all tastes and as a result, no one's amazingly happy with what's going. So you spend the entire time dealing with player grief. And I think you see with certainly your group that you all seem to have that same focus on narrative. And where that really came across was your Meet the Cast video. That's sort of your pre-episode 1 video where you all introduce yourselves and you all give a really good 5 minutes of who your character is and a little bit about their backstory. Prior to recording that, how much of the world's info was given to you, and how much did you guys collaborate on the backgrounds for your characters?
We have a Discord server for our campaign, and within that server, Cassie provided us with a bit of information to help us kind of, I would say, build our characters. It was really some basic stuff. Even though there was already some lore to the campaign before we made our characters, as we were creating them, I think Cassie kind of adapted the world to our characters, kind of shaped it to them so that everything was more cohesive. Now, I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. At least when I was writing Shuey, I didn't collaborate with anyone. He doesn't have any connections to any of the other PCs that, as far as I know, that I came up with. And so when I was making him, I just kind of stayed within what the setting of the campaign Cassie provided us was. So within those boundaries, that's kind of how I formed Shuey. Did the best I could with that boy. But other than that, there weren't too many guidelines. It was by myself with Cassie overseeing. Almost
all of the cast made a character with me. We collaborated on an NPC to put into the world. I don't remember if we did one for Brandy. I think he might be.
We sure didn't. Then there's reasons for that.
Yeah, there's reasons for that. But in terms of bending the world to fit, I definitely do that. The structure of the campaign, I always kind of have an ending in mind for where I want things to go, but everything else is built around the characters. And when I say ending, very loosely. So almost all the story beats, almost every NPC and every point, every place, location, all of that is bent around what I am given from a DM perspective. And that includes even like gods. A lot of the gods do not have a lot to them until you seek them out, and then I'm forced to add more to them. So when I have characters like a warlock and a paladin who enter, the gods that they pick, I'm going to bend and change and reflect those to the characters and their backstories. And a lot of times would be like, why would that god have an interest in you? And sometimes I have to make things fit narratively to have it make sense for that.
Thanks to Jay, we know all about his god. He never stops talking about
it.
Yeah. I'd also say that one of the benefits of Cassie's this version of the world that Cassie put forth was it was so early in it. Like, I think Cassie has said this before, but like this takes place like near the beginning of this world's history. So throwing in like backstory stuff is very easy because there's already very few events that have happened so far, and it makes it definitely feel like we're helping build the history around it. Like, for example, Brandy, he has a very particular backstory, like arc that he has to go through, because I've had him for a year or two by now, and I've entered him in a few things that never really went too far, but I love him and he's wonderful. And yeah, he has a very particular backstory that I specifically had to go to Cassie and be like, can we make this work? Because this is interesting. And thankfully it seemed pretty easy to, at least from my perspective, it seemed pretty easy to put him in, but I don't know if Cassie would say the same.
Not to like, no spoilers or anything, but Brandy, in terms of backstory and everything, is definitely the black sheep of the cast. So he was not necessarily the hardest to work in, but he's very different from all the other characters by far. So
that's a question I actually had about Brandy's background, because every time I've GM'd games and someone has come to me usually with games that have a system of merits and flaws, and there's inevitably a flaw called amnesia or something along those lines where they have an unknown past, and they say to me as the GM, can I take that? and I will literally cackle with glee and say, yes, you can take that, and then throw all sorts of nastiness in there. Is Brandy's past genuinely unknown to you, or do you know elements of it, but Brandy doesn't?
I know everything that I gave Cassie. I personally know everything I gave Cassie. I won't say if Brandy does or does not, but I know what I gave Cassie, and I'm sure Cassie, being the person that they are, has tweaked it in their own way and added things in. Like, I'll go to Cassie. It's no secret that we have like a year backlog by this point, and I'll go to Cassie afterwards and be like, hey, here's this question about Brandy, and then Cassie will give me info, and then I'm slowly, like, over the course of rewatching the episodes, I'm like slowly piecing things together, and I'm like, wait, and I like burst into Cassie's room like, oh, I see what you did.
Very fun. It's very fun after every episode release for Ripley to message me or come into my room and be like, I figured it out. And it's so funny too, because a lot of things that are happening in the current episodes that are releasing are related to things that we're playing right now. So they can see that I've set this up literally from session like 3 or 4 or 5. You know, it's like it's been there from the beginning, and they're just now piecing together like what a lot of that stuff means. And I know it's hard because when you're in the moment and you're playing it, you sometimes don't pick up on a lot of the stuff. We have our own server for fans as well, and they have their own theories and stuff about things. And our cast like will talk about their theories on things, and they'll be like, I wouldn't have thought that, or I wouldn't have realized that, or I wouldn't have had that idea. And it's different when you're playing it. It's a lot easier to miss things, I feel like, than when you're listening to it.
Before we started recording, we had a very deep and grown-up conversation about swearing and bad language. One thing I noticed from early episodes was the majority of swearing, I think, was caused by Shui's inability to roll anything other than a 1.
Yeah.
Just how frustrating was that?
Zen.
I mean, that seemed to go on for about 5 episodes.
And the very first roll for him, wasn't that a nat 1? It was something like
I don't think it was the first one.
It was really, I don't know.
I think it started when he was training with Dashi. When he was training with Dashi and was like, he had got his sword. Shui's whole character, not his whole character, a big portion of his character is about his sword and him wanting to be able to use his sword because his parents are sword singers and they were able to use it. And so he wants to have that ability as well. And he just fails to use it. And it's not like, oh, like he's not ready for it and he can't do it yet. It's like he just straight up rolls nat 1s whenever he tries to use his sword all the time.
Yeah. Zen is notorious for either being incredible in the game, he'll roll like 3 natural 20s in a row, or it's like that where he rolls like literally like nat 1 after nat 1. It's like there's no in between. It's either he's doing incredible or he's doing terrible, and it's
rough out here.
Now, I've had an image of Master Dashi sitting in a bar somewhere just crying into a drink going, what did I do wrong? Why doesn't he get it?
Honestly.
It is so funny, though, because it's moments like that, even in failure, that just make a lot of really good character building moments. Even if it's Shui cramping his hand up and falling over, it's like, aw, Shui would do that. That's who Shui is.
He's a failure.
Clumsy.
It's funny because, like, you know, when I listen to the episodes that get released, it's almost like we planned for him to fail.
Literally, it feels like it was meant for Shui to not be able to do that until later.
It was not like that. Yeah,
we don't plan. It's very rarely. I think one of the few instances is we had a session recently, and the only thing that I said in advance was I warned something. I was like, something really strange is going to happen, and I need you to be ready for it. And that's like the most advanced notice I give people. Mm-hmm. So it's usually almost everything that we go in. Like, we had questions about the last episode 15 that released, which was like the characters were all given like animals that were associated with them, and I was asked if they knew that those animals were going to be given to them, and no, they didn't.
Sure didn't.
I picked them for them. And it's the same with their sparks. The characters do not get to pick their sparks. I give it to them. So it's a lot of, I like keeping it a mystery to them too. I keep as much as, probably too much, secret as I can, because I like having those genuine reactions and I like having those genuine moments of RP. And so I don't preface a lot of things. I don't give a lot of warning for things.
Speaking of that, there was a moment in episode 1 that I genuinely laughed out loud at. And this is a question for little Theo.
Hello.
If Cassie hadn't said, "I won't allow that," would Theo have continued with his "Hi, it's me, Theo" voice?
No, the thing was, I had so much anxiety to actually play in the podcast, just as I had so much anxiety for joining this. And I was like, I don't know how to start without feeling extremely, incredibly awkward. So I was just like, let me make it so it's like half a joke and half I'm letting out my tenseness. And I'm just like, hey, like I would not have kept that voice. I had a voice for Theo in mind already, and it was just my voice, but a little more nervous. And it's, no way would I have kept that. It was just a little one-off trying to get my anxiety out.
It worked very well.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, after the fact, I completely forgot that I did that. And once Cassie had edited the episode and it went up, and we were actually doing a premiere, so there was like people in the chat. Even I laughed hard at it. Like, I completely forgot that I did it, and I was just like, wow, that's ridiculous.
Shuey is the only character before the podcast that was not already in something before. So Aviath has been in a one-shot before. He also was an NPC actually in a different one of our games that I played, which is interesting because Jay gave me him as an NPC. So it's interesting I played that character, and now to watch how he actually is supposed to be, it's kind of interesting. And then Theo was an NPC in one of Shayna's games that he had run. And then Brandy was a character that Ripley had made for a one-shot forever ago. I think, did you make him for the vampire one-shot?
No.
Okay.
I had the idea for Brandy for a long time, and I just wanted to get a chance to play with his idea. And it's changed a lot over time, but yeah.
Yeah, so Shuey is the only one that was completely built from the ground up for the podcast. A lot of the NPCs also have that, where they previously existed in other campaigns as PCs or NPCs.
Speaking of your NPCs, there's a huge, great cast of them. Which ones do each of you enjoy interacting with most and why? And I'm guessing Shuey's isn't Essence.
Absolutely not. I love Peter. That's not a secret. I love Peter, and Shuey loves Peter. So whenever I get the chance to interact with him, I'm just very pleased, very satisfied. I also love interacting with Shuey's master, Dashi. Yeah, so any scene that I get to participate in with Master Dashi or Peter or Jaga, because I do love Jaga. She has an energy that I relate to. I love a lot of the PCs. I have to say Libris is my favorite too. So okay. I'm gonna retcon. You can keep all of this in, by the way.
I fully intend to.
So I love interacting with Libris, Peter, Dashi. Those are my top 3. I couldn't give one.
No Draga. Remove Draga.
Draga's my favorite by a country mile.
Her spark is so strong, and yet she's so goblin-esque.
We were talking about really horrible ways that she could use that spark if she was smarter. So.
Well, I also like interacting with Peter a lot because he is so straight-faced that it's like fun to mess with him. I like talking with Draga, but I can't have much of a conversation with Draga because she only wants to talk about rocks. But it's funny for the 5 seconds that it lasts. Wynn, I also like his energy and his enthusiasm.
One of my favorites of the NPCs, most likely Wynn, because Wynn actually originated from a game that I ran and was a PC that Cassie played. So he's like very close to my heart. I'm like, oh, it's the baby. And I love him. I love him so much. And then I probably like Titus a lot. I think because his energy is so close to Theo's, I'm like, it's kind of fun to see them interact, not to mention their slight like backstory that they had. Like they didn't really know each other, but they saw each other, so they kind of recognized, but they were both too awkward to talk. And it was just, that's fun. I also love Peter. He's so cool. He's so good.
I'm so glad my love for Peter has rubbed off over time.
Look,
I did not make it a secret. So.
He's also like my favorite kind of character. Like if he was in an anime, he'd be my favorite. I was going to say though, I kind of love interacting with Estelle because she's so serious and feels like she's so much better than everyone that it makes it fun for a character like mine who Theo, he thinks he's much lesser than everyone, but when someone acts that way to him, he feels the need to like combat that. So it's fun interacting with Estelle, particularly when Theo's feeling kind of a little bit more courageous to actually say something against her attitude, which does not happen often because Theo's very not confrontational unless something really bothers him, but it's really fun. I also love Estelle because I played with her as a PC and PC because she was also a PC in a game I played with somebody else, and it's just a lot of stuff. I like all the characters. I have a soft spot for my friends' characters, so technically I could say every NPC I love interacting with, but those are the ones that I probably like the most.
Yeah, I'd say personal bias. I like interacting with Estelle the most because I DM'd 2 games that she was a part of, and so she has a personal spot in my heart. Seeing her in this world where she's actually competent is very nice, and also makes it so much funnier when we can find a way to mess with her like we did in the most recent episode, which I forgot we had done and it still made me laugh.
How could you forget that perfect moment?
But yeah, I enjoy Estelle's character. I find myself enjoying interacting with NPCs that I have friction with, just because I like the bumping of ideologies and like personalities and stuff. Like I hate Essence as a person, but she's very interesting as a character, and I like interacting with her because her need for perfection versus Brandy, who believes he's the biggest like screw up of the world, and the way that they clash with each other is very interesting to me. Also, Arthur gets interesting later. That'll be fun. You'll get there soon.
Spoilers. Yeah. Come on, Ripley.
I'm not going to say anything.
Cassie's going to gut you with a knife once this finishes.
Absolutely. Cassie
we live together, so I can.
I won't say anything to his character because he's literally been there for like 5 minutes in actual episodes, but he is very interesting and I enjoy
he's meant to kind of blend in for a while, so
yeah, it'll be interesting to see everybody's reaction at that point. But yeah, I think Estelle, Essence, Arthur, anybody that I can have friction with. Peter too. I mean, Peter's the obvious answer. Everybody answered Peter.
My answer is also character. Peter.
I get the impression Cassie is a little bit too much fun playing Estelle though, just in
a little too much fun
talking down to people occasionally.
Can't do it in real life, so
I will
say there is also a very big difference, and it's fun to play because all 4 of the mentors were PCs. Libris wasn't, but she was an NPC in a different game. But a lot of the characters that were PCs that are NPCs now is I get to show how they actually are supposed to be when they are given everything that they need. Like, 'cause you can only play a PC. They're at the mercy of the dice, essentially. When you are the DM and you control them, you don't have to make dice rolls all the time. They can just do things. So it's nice to be able to make characters that are supposed to be good at things actually good at them. And Estelle is a good example of that. She's completely incompetent as a PC because I roll garbage. So when I've played her, she is usually the weakest link of a party because I roll so bad and I don't know how to play her classes all the way very well. I pick for flavor and not for optimization. So playing her in this game where I am able to just control her and she's already been a figure that's very powerful and strong, she has a completely different attitude in this game than in other ones. She's also a lot older, so.
I mentioned earlier about Theo's jokey voice in episode 1, but one thing that you guys all seem to do very well is voices. I think as a cast, you lot do a very good job of either varying the tone of your voice or doing a completely different voice. How much do you think that helps with the sense of immersion?
I'd say immensely, to be honest.
I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, because I would say one thing, even like when not in podcasts, with like in games that I run or like all of us run on the side, changing your voice, even if it's only slightly, one, it just also helps to like specify when a character is talking versus when you're talking. So it's like there's that disconnect between the two that allows you to get more into that character. I feel like their voices tend to really like infer like what the character is or what they're about. Like you can get a lot from just a voice and listening to a character talk. Like Aviath's loud and like being extremely boisterous, like really portrays like he thinks he's like a big shot. He thinks he's incredible, which in some respects he is. He obliterated me in a single round of combat. But and then Shui, you get so like good. He's so hyperactive, and it comes super across whenever Zen plays him. And then Shayna playing Theo. Theo is very clearly nervous and soft-spoken, and then Brandy is very slow when you talk. He hesitates a little bit, I would say, whenever he talks. And it's just that little bit of being able to use your voice to more so portray what a character is feeling or how they interact with the world really, really helps to like invest yourself more, not only in the character, but like the story itself too.
Yeah, I can't actually really change my voice a lot in terms of pitch and things. A lot of it I would say is inflection and tone and how I change it. But then also I have the blessings of knowing how to use technology. So I use voice mods a lot as well. To help differentiate that. Ripley, I would say, of our group, by far has the most voices that she is able to do. I think, can get a personality. And even if you can't do a lot of voices, I think there is a lot that you can do with a personality. Like Estel and Peter are very close in the way that they talk, but one is a lot more serious than the other, and the other is a lot more kind of like almost snooty in the way that they talk. So it's like you can change subtle things about a character voice and about a character and how they talk tonally without changing your entire voice for every character.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I wish that I had done, at least for podcast sake, is it is unfortunate that I really wanted to play Theo, considering I have characters that have vastly different voices from my own. Like, for example, in a different version of this world that Cassie had run a different game for, the character that I played in that, she had a vastly different voice from mine. And then I have other characters that have kind of, pretty different than my own. But for some reason for the podcast, I chose a character that had basically my voice. And I'm so sad about it. Like, I could have had a character that talks like this, but I don't.
That was in our last game. Shayna played a character called Riel, and we played that for over a year, and that was her voice the entire time.
That was my voice the whole time, yep. And I was so annoying, but it was fun.
She was very scary.
She was very scary.
Yeah, because the thing I wanted to do with her voice specifically was like, show that she's like really quirky and she's also kind of creepy. So yeah.
You've segued nicely with kind of creepy there, because as I mentioned beforehand, you spend probably the first 4 episodes really just building character and building the setting and letting your audience get to know what's going on. But then you have the Red Moon episode, which has a genuinely creepy vibe to it. There's a couple of revelations in that episode, but for the players, how much of the world's mythos and creatures were you aware of out of character, and how much of it were you responding to there and then when it was recorded?
God, we did not know. We knew next to nothing about particularly the name of the Jabbers just came out recently. Mm-hmm. we knew nothing about this creature, and it was like being described to us and how it would like speak back. And literally, I was terrified. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
don't get Brandy, please.
That first scene that it shows up in, where I was the one who saw it, and it just standing there repeating back to me, those were like my genuine reactions to seeing this thing. I was like, what is that? What is that? What is it doing? And then it got down on all fours, and like Brandy probably wouldn't have run, but I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to get out of here like now.
Oh man, when Theo was like tricked, or like not tricked, I guess his wisdom save was so bad that he was willed to go outside alone to look for Brandy, and then he finds this terrifying creature. I was like, I do not want to be here. I know what's coming because Brandy has seen it now. I don't want to be here. I'm scared. I don't want to meet this thing. And Thea running, it's like I had to force him to run, just like similarly to how Ripley had with Brandy. It's like I knew Thea would be a little bit more curious and be like, what's wrong? Like, there's clearly something wrong with this creature. And they're asking, like, the way that the creature was acting was like, it seemed almost like a person, but not. And he would have been a little bit more like, hey, are you okay? But I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here.
I experience a lot of emotions when playing D&D. So, you know, when there are these creepier moments, I feel all of it. Like, I do feel all of it. And, you know, Cassie will sometimes go like make a perception check, and I'm like, no.
I'm so afraid.
No,
of
I don't
those
want
words.
To.
I think literally that episode when you met Winona for the first time, you were like reaching down and looking into the water, and I was like, roll a perception check. And you're like, oh, I got a nat 20. I'm like, you see eyes staring back. And you're like, I want to unsee. I want to remove my eyes. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I think also because all of us players have such detailed mindscapes. Like, we can all see very well what visuals Cassie is setting up in our brains. I think since all of us get so invested in the visuals, that horror visuals like that, or like thrilling or creepy ones like that, can really get to us because we're all very sensitive to story things and visualizing it in our minds, even if it isn't part of like the map or whatever that is already actually set up. It's like if we can visualize it in our mind, and a mind is a powerful thing to make it even scarier than it seems. So
I think that also, because I have ideas for things, and obviously you can kind of tell when I prepare because I'll have voice mods set up in advance and things. But the first Jabber encounter, I actually didn't intend for it to be there. But Brandy was out and wandering around, and I was like, oh, this is a great time. I'll just do it now. So Brandy got to see the Jabber probably actually sooner than I had planned originally for it to come into play. But so there wasn't any character art for it yet. There was the voice mod, but there wasn't any art for it. So I think that also added a level of like, you don't actually know what this looks like. You only have what's in your mind's eye of what I'm describing.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, to Cassie's credit, for sure, Cassie, in all the games that they've run, does an incredible job of making you feel horrified. Like, Cassie is very good at building atmosphere and building up, like, suspenseful moments. There have been moments in different games where I've genuinely screamed in anger or horror because of something that Cassie has set up over time. Cassie just has a good eye and ear for like music and visuals that will really unsettle, which is very fun, especially because Cassie likes to just throw it on you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Cassie just likes to be like, and now you're dealing with this. And it's like, okay.
It'll be like really simple stuff too, but it'll compound. Like in our previous campaign, Fool's Paradise, literally there was just an instant where like you turn around, you see a scarecrow, you turn around again, and it's a little bit closer than it was before.
It's getting a little closer.
God, that was so scary. That was so scary. The scarecrow, so scary. But anyway, I did want to mention, we not only have music in like the actual episodes that come out, but when we're actually playing, Cassie still has like music going when we're playing sessions in real time. And that super helps with the creep factor, because it's like it'll be this little cheery little music, and then the music will kind of fade or like stop for a second, and then like dum, and we're like,
my absolute favorite is cutting the music, and they're like, why did the music stop?
It's just like, oh no. Oh no, that's a bad sign.
You don't hear it during like the actual episodes, but sometimes we're like, oh, this is a bop, and we're like jamming and we're loving the song.
And then I have to tell everyone not to acknowledge the actual song as much as possible, because I'm like, we might get dinged for copyright. Like this song, we might not be able to actually put it in the episode if it like makes it so the episode isn't available, because we do use copyrighted music, but we aren't monetized, and the people who music we use are the ones who monetize it in exchange. But sometimes songs do get dinged where they get like certain countries can't view it, and I always upload in advance to make sure that it'll be okay. So sometimes I have to switch out songs. So when people are like making references to the music I use, I'm like, you guys can't, because this might not actually make it into the episode. They've done that. I think one time I played, what was it, like an Eminem song?
Oh, you played the fingerstyle guitar version of Lose Yourself. Or something like that.
Yeah, and someone starts going like, Mom, spaghetti in the background. And I'm like, you can't acknowledge it. Don't acknowledge the song.
I think our big takeaway from this is that Ripley does not feel safe in her home living with you.
No, absolutely not.
Just blink twice if you need help.
Rapid blinking. No.
Turns camera on. No.
So you guys had your first combat in, I think it was episode 6. That was an episode I spent a lot of time chuckling as the words intruder and stupid were repeated over and over again. When this happened, how did you guys feel about it? What did you think was happening at the time when these shadowy figures appeared out of nowhere and started attacking you in what should have been a safe space whilst chanting nonsense the entire time?
I was just Cassie things. No.
Hashtag just Cassie things.
I think at that point, I was probably just really excited to kind of showcase how fast Shuey can move, because he can go. With that being our first combat, even though like these shadowy figures, it was all like super suspicious, and like at the same time, I was just really excited because I was like, ooh, I get to hit something finally. You know, it could have just been me. I know like combat's not like our focal point, but I wanted to use my beast blade.
Yeah, no, it's the same with me.
I think because we super didn't know much about where we were taken to, I had no idea what to expect. I was like, is this an ambush? Have we been trapped? I don't know. Like, as the fight went on, and how interestingly hilarious that these little shadowy figures were. I was like, I don't know if this is all that serious anymore. Like, I'm like, I think this might be a mistake. The thing I was mostly thinking about in that initial fight was like, how can I make this into a fun character interaction? Like, just with my character and another PC.
Yeah.
One of these days, I got to make the first combat be one, because everyone always expects the first combat to be like training wheels. I got to make the first combat one of these games be like actually really super intense, so that way people don't expect that anymore.
Or you could just not. Yeah, I think in that moment of showing up for the first time and attacking us out of nowhere, I think it was literally, I was thinking the thing that, I mean, Brandy wouldn't have come to this conclusion, but like him saying intruder over and over again, it was very much like, oh, this is the guard. We may not be here or may not supposed to be here, and maybe Estel didn't give us that information that we weren't supposed to be here.
I remember. Yeah. I'm sorry, I remember what it was. I thought it was a test Estel gave us. That Estel just left. Because it's been a long time since we played that session. I remember it was. I thought it was that Estel was like, I'm gonna go get something, and then she like slyly like says to the side like, attack them,
blast them.
Like, I think I thought it was a test. Yeah.
They also rolled absolutely garbage for that fight. They rolled so bad.
Yeah.
So bad. I didn't fudge any rolls for that. I think I may have actually fudged one or two just to make them hit you, because I was like, gosh, they can't go this entire combat without hitting a single player.
Also, Jaga was not participating in that fight, and she would have decimated them.
She didn't have a character sheet.
She would have ruined them.
We found out in the moment, as I was like, okay, let me pull up Draga's character sheet so she can fight with you. We found out in the moment, I was like, I didn't make a character sheet for Draga. I think Ripley suggested it, was like, just have her run under the table. And I was like, okay, 1 sec, guys. And I was like, podcast, reset. Draga runs under the table. Okay, let's go.
Well, as Drag is my favourite character, you need to amend that instantly.
She has the most votes for chosen one, right?
I expect her to take down a Manticore in the next episode. Speaking of large fights, we then had the training fight episode. Zen, I'll ask you first. What was it like to have that terrible fight against Essence?
It was horrible.
Does it still sting?
It does sting because I think in that moment, Shui was really, really trying to impress the mentors there. Peter in particular, because he wanted him to be his trainer, and so for him to get just absolutely destroyed by Essence, that really it was a slap in the face for him. I think that for me, it was really interesting because when my characters face hardship, I'm just like, there are times when I talk to some coworkers and they'll describe how their character rolled really bad and how they were like so upset and don't want to play the game anymore. But I'm like, whenever Shui fails, I'm just like, ooh, okay, Anne, what's next? And this is true for, I guess, a lot of my characters. They will tell you that I love failing.
We definitely got the short end of the stick for those combats, and I knew he was going to. But again, I pick things for narrative purposes, so not necessarily what I think is going to be an even match. It's what makes the most sense narratively for things to happen, and it made the most narrative sense considering everything.
So speaking of which, Jay and Ripley, your battle royale, how was that?
I was so excited.
Yes, it was even better than I had hoped.
Literally, I think me and Jay both knew at some point, we didn't know when it was going to happen, but we knew Brandy and Aviath were going to clash because they are literally fundamentally polar opposites of one another. Like Asmer Paladin, who's on the side of good, and this tiefling warlock who clearly has a dark side to him that he hasn't put forth yet. And I was just so excited because I was like, oh, I love paladins. I can't wait for Jay to absolutely destroy this man and extremely quickly, which sure enough.
I was hoping Aviath would be strong, but goddamn.
Yeah, Brandy was not very strong yet.
So I hate to interject, but once Cassie kind of revealed, before we even had a session, when Cassie revealed who the player or the PCs were going to be, I was kind of worried. I was like, we have an Asmer Paladin and a Tiefling Warlock. They are literal opposites. This is not going to go well. But as if you've seen our podcast, their dynamic,
it's so good.
It's really good.
So good.
They're opposites. They're fundamentally just different from each other. But they have a certain dynamic that is they get along, but do they really get along?
They're trying to understand the other. I don't want to be the asshole. So they're trying to understand each other, which is really interesting.
I did love Aviath's lecture on necromancy recently.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was almost, I'm going to take you aside for a quiet discussion about why you shouldn't be doing necromancy. It was a wonderful little interaction between the pair of you because it was just Brandy's sort of nervous hesitancy to answer anything because he wasn't sure there was a smiting coming in the other end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's also Brandy's spark. That's what he is essentially born with. He's had that for a very long time. It's not something that he got to pick. It's just sparks you just have. So he's trying to explain that, and Violet doesn't get it. He's like, this is my spark. This is I can't change this. This isn't a spell that I learned of my own free will. This is just something that I have. And Aviath's just nope.
Yeah, that was the thing that Jay warned me about, that Aviath was going to come up to him and talk to him at some point just before.
Aviath just has a very old-fashioned mentality. If his religion tells him something is bad, he doesn't question it. He just kind of feels like everyone has to live to that standard. That's kind of a flaw of his.
Yeah.
There was also that very nice moment, though, from Aviath, because up until that point, he's been exactly like you described him there, seems almost fundamentalist. He's always quoting, he's, reading out his book to people. But when he was asked about, what do you want from the future? And I think you said something like, I want to be the chosen one that everyone can believe in. And it was actually he certainly came across to the audience as a lot more humble and a very kind of open, vulnerable moment for him. Was that intentional?
Yeah, that was intentional. I wanted to sort of knock him down a peg and show that part of his confidence, it's a little bit faked. He's like trying to inflate himself because he holds this belief that if he looks confident, then everyone will be confident in him. And that's why he so stubbornly sticks to this morality of no necromancy, because if he's wavering on his beliefs, then people might not believe in him. People might think he doesn't know what he's doing. That also ties into the expectations that are put onto him ever since he was young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I love the Aviath booth scene, where it's literally just him questioning him. Like, what if we're not the chosen one? What are we if we don't have this, you know?
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you see Aviath as this really, he's a character for sure. Like this really grand figure, you know, he's clearly special, destined to do good things. But, you know, I think in the most recent episode, you know, when they meet a god for the first time, and the Aviath's like, hey, what have people been saying about me? And he's like, who are you? I just like that, you know, it's like, Cassie likes to downplay Aviath sometimes. I just like when Cassie does that sometimes. It's funny to me, you know, knowing who he is and knowing the things he's accomplished for people to be like, okay, but who are you? You know, like it's just funny to me.
I like doing that. I like reversing expectations a lot because I think again it's that you know that pressure, that weird gap that keeps happening between Aviath and Brandy, where the god meets Brandy, this very quiet tiefling who no one knows anything about, and it's like everyone is talking about you. There are a lot of secrets about you.
When I found that out was
and also having things like, again, Theo, the one who seems like very quiet and to himself, and the very first thing that a god says to him when he's like, it's so nice to meet you, is the god says, and it's incredible to meet you too. But then like meeting Aviath, it's always these situations of just like, oh, hi. Hello. And it's him being like kind of in these situations where these instances that mean so much to him, the people who it doesn't mean as much to them are the ones who would get that acknowledgement.
I did like that scene when you met the god and Aviath preemptively bowed and Theo said, I hyperventilate. It just felt that all of you were like very comfortable in who your characters were at that point.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, how does Ripley feel now that Brandy's been cast as some sort of edgelord wolf when he was transformed into his animal form?
It is exactly what he should have been, and I'm so happy that that's what Cassie went with, because I was like, if you asked me like what animal would Brandy be, I would genuinely not have an answer. But when Cassie was like, oh, he's this big white wolf with like all these black markings all over him, like that is exactly what he would be, and that is perfect, and I love that you did that because it's just so
Chewie
funny.
being a rabbit, I think, was perfect because he bounces off the walls literally, sometimes literally. And I just think that, you know, him being rabbit adjacent was a really good move on Cassie's part.
Aviath and Chewie joking about being bears at the beginning, and then Aviath actually being a bear when he went in was very funny as well. It was just Cassie clearly put a lot of thought into.
Yeah, and that was more so about the idea of like, you know, specifically mother bears, but like the idea of like being very protective of others and things like that was like more so the idea with the bear for Aviath.
I didn't think about that either.
I just thought it was big.
Yeah, I literally just thought, I was like, oh, it's because he's so grand and everyone can see him, especially because he has the wings in his bear form.
No, when people are referring to like animals that are very protective all the time, mother bear is one that is constantly used.
True. How did I not think of that? Dang. I also wanted to mention with Theo, like, this is the same case for me as it was for Ripley. It's like, if someone had asked what animal Theo was, I would have had no idea. And then Cassie was like, Theo's a fox. And I'm like, dang, Theo is a fox.
Cassie, you mentioned earlier the confession booth scene. I think that's honestly where, again, as someone watching it, it seemed a lot more intense. In particular, the scene for Theo. So how did it feel for you guys playing out those scenes?
I almost cried.
It was
cried. So hard to be mean to someone in that way, specifically because it is an issue that does hit home for a lot of us, that specific one. So it was hard to be on the instigating side of it.
Sorry,
also hard to be on the reception.
Yeah. I was going to say, it is hard because I wrote Theo, you know, like a year or two ago. And then I went through some things that are very similar to what Theo went through. And I was like, wow, that hurts. Like, I was like, dang, I'm sorry, my boy.
Yeah, I think my scene in the booth was very interesting for me and was fun to play Brandy through because one, I knew who that was. Brandy knew who that was. And it's like a moment in Brandy's story, or like a moment that only the audience gets to see at that point, that Brandy remembers a little more than he may let on. Like, it doesn't come up that he doesn't remember, quote unquote, like doesn't remember everything that he, like his past or anything. But that is a moment where I got to be like, okay, Brandy knows that he's alone right now and that nobody can hear him. And then this person from this past comes up that he has incredibly mixed feelings about. It was very interesting to be able to have him to relive that and live through and like explore his, because again, Cassie never tells us what's coming next ever. So I was like, I don't know who this is going to be on this end. I thought it was going to be somebody else completely based on what me and Cassie had discussed. But when that came up, I was like, oh, okay. I got to figure out how he feels about you exactly. And it came to a very like complicated conclusion with him outright trying to deny that any of this was happening and ignoring it specifically because it's something he doesn't want to remember. Most of his stuff is more so maybe he forgot it, maybe he doesn't want to remember it.
He says a lot of things that Theo tends to catch where he's just like, wait, okay, that's weird. But I will also say we cut out a lot of things, obviously, from the show. But after Shayna's scene, after the Theo scene, I did, like, afterwards, I was like, Shayna, you took that like a champ. Good job. Like, I was like, you did great. And Shayna's like, I'm going to cry. Like,
yeah, I needed, like, a good, I don't know how long to recover because it was very personal. But the thing I did want to mention was none of us knew what was coming in those booths. And I especially didn't know. I was like, maybe Theo will see something incredible. And then it was his sister. And I barely remembered her name. So that moment of hesitancy where he was like trying to figure out who was on the other side, that was also me. But it was just like from the clues of how she had spoken and what things were said in the start, it was just Theo suddenly realizing it's like, oh, it's you. It was just, I think it was really interesting to see everyone's reactions to the things that they were going to interact with in the booth because none of us knew what we were going to talk to.
Yeah, that was probably the safest way that we could have talked about that topic in that way. Because we had agreed before the show started, we were not going to put Theo's parents in this. They are not going to come up just because of the background surrounding that. We're like, that's too much for this. So it was trying to find a way to still, because it's very important to him as a character, trying to find still a way to reference it where it's one of those things where it's like, it is entirely possible for someone to watch that episode. And if they are not a trans person or are around trans people a lot, will not understand exactly what's happening. But if you get it, you get it. And that's kind of what's important about it. So
I think you could tell watching it as well, though. There were moments, and I don't know if it was just you acting the character or not, but you could hear Theo's voice almost crack a couple of times.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of fun with emotional scenes. Part of it is my own nerves rising up, but a lot of it I do purposely because I'm like, this is how he would be reacting. He would be really emotional about this. So I try to use my voice in ways that, and I think all of us get really sucked into scenes sometimes. And I literally got so lost in the scene that both myself and Theo forgot it was fake. So literally, it was like he was reacting and responding to his sister, someone that he had a lot of history with, but hadn't seen in a long time, in ways that he would have if it was actually her there. So.
Mm-hmm. For me, the most interesting scenes in the booth were both Aviath's and Shui's for different reasons. For Shui, because he literally gets grabbed at some point and almost pulled in, and it's like, what would have happened if nobody stepped in? And then Aviath's being so literally self-reflective that it was incredibly like interesting to watch Aviath interact with himself.
I had to mute Ripley's audio for that because Ripley was cracking up. Everyone else's
it was
booth
very
scenes,
funny.
everyone else's booth scenes, everyone was like very respectful and quiet, and no one talked over them. And the second Aviath was talking to Aviath, Ripley could not stop laughing. So I had to like mute her entire track for that scene because she just kept bursting out laughing during certain parts of it. So
Chewie, his scene was definitely interesting. When I was watching the premiere and reading some of the comments, people were expecting like maybe Chewie's parents or, maybe Winona, a goddess who he has some kind of connection to, or, maybe a Master Dashi, somebody. But we know from the first episode that he got his sword not from Winona, but from this trickery god, Mizuni. We haven't seen Mizuni before. Like we haven't met her. Shui was just like, okay, this is kind of weird, but I got a sword now. So he was just kind of rolling with it. And then for him to actually kind of talk to her, but not really talk to her, but kind of talk to her, and it ending up the way it did, he was ready to fight. And I was ready to fight too. Because it was infuriating for him to kind of have been treated like he was an idiot. It's true, but that don't mean he gotta like it. Shui's emotions kind of bled through and kind of became my own. So I was also like, oh my God, leave him alone. He's not smart. Why'd you trick him? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So that his booth scene, I think it ended on a note really different from everyone else's. If you've seen the episode, a lot of the booth scenes were sad. A lot of people came out crying. Not Aviath, because Aviath. But Shui was the opposite. He was ready to brawl. He was ready to, he was like, "Come out! Who are you?" He was just ready to throw down. And he's very idealistic. He has like this perception of who he wants to be and kind of what his Beast Blade is supposed to be. And for him to have been like tricked and told that he wasn't worthy of the sword, and then knowing that the sword was like just a trick because she was a little bit jealous of the other god, he just was like, he was legit. He was done. He was like, I don't want this anymore. He was just, I mean, if he lost, and I hate to say it, but like if he lost his sword, he wouldn't be Shui anymore. I don't think, he'd be Shui. Is just, so the sword is such an important thing to him that if he lost that object, I'm not sure where he'd be right now.
I want to know what was going through Jay's mind during the Aviath scene.
Yeah, so the thing is, I had a certain expectation because I think Aviath was last or he was second to last. I don't remember. But everyone else...
He was second to last.
Oh, yeah. So he was pretty late. And everyone else had seen someone from their past, and then they came out to the booth all sad or like overwhelmed with negative emotion. And I was like, well, I guess bring it on, because Aviath is not that easy to hurt. He's a pretty tough dude. So I was ready for maybe like his rival, the Abraham, or maybe one of his parents or something. And then another Aviath, and I was like, what the hell? I was so caught off guard and not ready for that. But I do like how that played out. The other Aviath he was talked to sort of pushed his conflict with Brandy by talking about how Brandy uses necromancy and all that. So yeah, I didn't know what to say a lot of the time because I was like, I wasn't ready for this.
It was a very good scene though to watch from a viewer's standpoint, and like you say, it segued nicely into Aviath taking Brandy aside for a casual little chat about the benefits or lack thereof of practicing necromancy. Listen, guys, we're coming up to time here. So before we wrap up, a couple of questions for you. First thing, what reason would you give a new listener who's never watched Chosen Ones before to watch your series?
Well, I'll start by saying if you're a theory crafter, it's definitely the show for you. There's so much foreshadowing, so many mysteries going on within the story. We have someone in our Chosen Ones Discord group who was going back and taking notes on every single episode, trying to piece everything together. So that's definitely one reason to watch it. Another reason to watch it, like we said, it's very story-driven, very character-driven, and it's more fun to look at than a lot of podcasts, in my opinion, because of the visual aspect of it. You can see which characters are on screen. You can see which characters are talking, just sort of keep track of everything going on, which is fun.
If I was looking for something to listen to, I would find a lot of joy in how well the people get along that are involved. I think all of us here, we've known each other for so long and we've been doing this kind of thing for so long that we kind of know what to expect and what boundaries there are and what will make something fun with each other. And I think because we mesh so well, it makes for a really smooth experience to listen to. I think the interactions are really fun person-wise. And then, of course, we're all humbly pretty great at characters. We all have really good ways of building a character and incorporating personality and story into playtime. And it's just, for me, it would be really fun to find something like that you could really get into, because you can see how dedicated and how much love is crafted through this narrative, this story, and each character in it.
I would say, kind of building off of what Jay and Shayna said, and something to harken back to like that first video that the Meet the Cast video, something similar to what I said there, is we've been doing this for a while now, not just in terms of like role-playing games or anything like that, but we all have our own individual like characters and stories that we like to tell when it comes to all of us getting to interact with one another. We've been friends for years at this point. I think one of the biggest draws is how well we tend to bounce off one another, and that it doesn't feel like we're trying to force game. Because something I hear a lot from other people is that they're surprised at how little combat we do and how much RP we do versus like their own games, and how much they're like, man, I wish my group RP'd a lot. And it's like, I think it's important to have like a focus on that in games, or like not even a focus, but like more intensive. And I think if you like long for something like that, it is definitely a good game to do so, because we love it. We love interacting with our friends and interacting with their characters and building relationships together over the course of the game. And I think that's something that is very strong, and very strong themes of like relationships in this game.
Zen, what about yourself? Why should people come and see the adventures of Shui? I believe you refer to them as Shui Nanigans.
I did refer to them as Shui Nanigans. So that's actually a really good point. So I think a lot of the character interactions are really good. The dynamics are amazing. You know, Shui and Yaya and Theo and Brandy, they all have really good moments together when they're all together, and also when they kind of break off into like their duos, their respective duos. I think those moments are also really good because, you know, you've got Shui and Yaya who just do really goofy, silly stuff. And then Brandy and Theo who just kind of bring it down a little bit. They have their goofy moments too, you know, like in this most recent episode with Estel. Mild spoiler, later on, they also do some pretty goofy stuff. When I listen to other D&D campaigns, I can always find something I enjoy, but I did notice that quite a few of them, not all of them, obviously, but quite a few of them, the jokes and whatnot, a lot of the interactions that happen are out of character. It's hard to kind of tell what the characters do and kind of what the players are just kind of like, oh, haha, this is like really funny. And I laugh at those because they are really funny. But I think in Chosen Ones, the characterization is something to definitely watch the show for. That, and also just the incredible plot that's been going on. Even now, it's just slowly ramping up. But I love anxiety-inducing moments. And Cassie does bring that. It's kind of starting off a little small, but it does pick up more and more, and as more like story elements get revealed, it's kind of like aha, you know, just those moments. I think those for the shock factor, I think Chosen Ones is worth watching.
There's a point you make about the humor, and there's something Chosen Ones doesn't do, which is a really good thing, and I hear this on some other podcasts where there's a tendency to have in-jokes amongst the cast members that have never been explained on air, So people suddenly fall about laughing at something, and as a listener, you're like, why are they laughing? You guys
Definitely
have never done, you certainly never done it on air. I'm sure you do it.
Yeah,
I
so
cut them out.
we do have our own inside jokes, but that is something I noticed as well. Like if I'm watching a podcast and they have their inside jokes, I'm like, I want to be included too. I think that a lot of the humor in Chosen Ones is really easy to follow because it's actually kind of in character, if that makes sense. Yeah. That whole bear debacle, that was funny. That wasn't like an inside joke, but it happened like actually in campaign. Maybe in the future they reference it and it's an inside joke to them. The audience knows, like the audience will be in on that this is an inside joke for the characters themselves. This is like something that they're referencing from forever ago. Chosen Ones in general it's really easy to follow.
Finally, Cassie, it's your baby. You got the opportunity to shill shamelessly.
Yeah. I would say, kind of bouncing off what Zen said and what we've just discussed, is something that we keep in mind for this podcast, and what I stress all the time is that we are performing. This is for an audience. This is not just for us, but we should always play like it's just for us. But we need to keep in mind that people who are listening do not know us and do not know all of the history that comes with these games that we've done. So I'm always like, there are things that they as players know, because this is a world a lot of my other campaigns are built in, that they recognize and they see, but they aren't allowed to act on because that would be like outside knowledge. So it's a lot of, we are very careful about portraying the story from the perspective of the audience so that they are never lost, or that they are just as lost as the cast, if that makes sense. And besides that, I feel like our story has a lot of elements for almost everyone. We have moments where we're humorous and we joke around with each other, both in and out of character. We definitely have something that I consider a compliment that we've heard a lot of, is we have a vibe to us that we are just friends hanging out. And when you listen to us, you feel like you're just with your friends, kind of, chilling and playing a game kind of together with these elements. And you feel like you're playing with us.
Which we are. We're just coworkers, but no, just kidding.
This is all a set. My room drops behind me. No, but we have that kind of like laid back element, but we can get very serious with our tone. We have, some thriller elements, some horror elements, comedy, fantasy. We have more stuff on the horizon that I'm very excited about that might be some genre play that you might see. So there's a lot of stuff that we have kind of going on in our story and in our world. And I would also say not just the show itself, but we have built, and what I constantly try to build, is a strong community around our show, both in the accounts that we use and online where you can immediately talk to us. I never want to feel like we are a cast or we are a production that is above our listeners. And so I try to interact with anyone who ever says anything, whether it be in the comments or on Twitter or in the Discord, even if it's not related to our show necessarily, but just people reaching out to try and talk to us. Because I do feel like we are a show first and foremost in terms of like entertainment and value and stuff like that. But I'm here to make connections both with my cast and with the people who listen to us. Because if you feel a connection to what we make, you're probably a person I want to get to know and want to talk to. And we're at a point production wise and level wise where that is fairly easy to still kind of enter our community and be able to like talk to us and have that kind of like feeling of belonging with where we are in terms of production and stuff. We aren't super big yet, or will we be? I don't know. But I try to, like I said, keep that sense of community around our show.
Well, one final non-Chosen Ones related question. I always give guests a chance to promote any other projects that they're working on. So do any of you have anything you would like to promote, talk about, get other people interested in?
This is my life right now.
No, this is also my life right now, so I don't have really anything to promote. I don't know. Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, I was literally
that I don't post on.
I was gonna say I do commissions on Twitter. If you want to help me quit my job eventually, please. Yeah, I do the thumbnail work for the majority of the thumbnail work and the sprite work for Chosen Ones. So if that interests you, you can find me on twitter.com/rip with 2 P's _tides. Also, I'll just promote Chosen Ones, because if none of that convinced you, the production that Cassie puts into this podcast is too much. So maybe just watch it for the the production element itself.
That's a good point. The intro, who put the intro together?
That was Shayna.
And
That was Shayna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insanely high production values.
That was actually something I was going to mention when you said anything to look forward to project-wise. I did animate the opening for Chosen Ones. Cassie did the editing with the backgrounds and stuff, but I did the character animations. And the thing is, one day I was, casually looking at some anime openings, because I just do that. Not that I like anime that much, but like it's there and it's fun. So there's this one opening of an anime that I thought, Chosen Ones could kind of fit in that. So I decided to make an animated parody of it, and it's in production right now. And
Really cool.
Yeah, the opening for the actual podcast, I animated it in a way that would be a little easier for me because it was a paid thing. But this one I'm doing on my own time for my own enjoyment. So I'm going all out on the visuals. And it is a lot. It's too much, honestly. It's already 2 months in for how I've been working on it. And I think it'll be pretty great. So my YouTube, SCH Ribbit, so just Shribbit, my video that I'm working on, the Chosen Ones little anime opening parody thing, will be releasing on my YouTube channel eventually. And in the meantime, I have a ton of other animations on that account, a lot of them relating to D&D / like other fun little D&D things in there that I animate. So yeah, if you want to see fun D&D animations / original character animations, my YouTube is there, and I will eventually release that animated video.
Join our Discord so you can see wits.
Yeah, I have been posting some work in progresses on the Discord, and yeah, I've been
The
chipping
Discord
away
is so
at it.
fun. We make fun of Aviath. That's mostly what we do in the server. Is we have Jay has a folder of memes that people have made about Aviath. It's ridiculous.
And what about you, Jay? Do you have anything you want to promote apart from memes mocking poor Aviath?
Hold on, let me look up how many memes real quick I have of Aviath alone.
He wants to promote the Aviath memes, is what Jay is taking his time for.
I encourage everyone. It's 40 of them so far.
Jesus.
Please make more Aviath memes
We
for
need to
Jay
get
to
to
add to
50.
his folder.
How many did you say?
40.
What? Dang. I am actually reminded that we do have little Twitter accounts for our characters that you can ask questions to.
Oh yeah, yep. We have character accounts for all of the PCs, and then one NPC which was voted on, which is Estel. So Estel also has an account that you can ask questions on, and sometimes we draw things for them in response. So.
Well, I will put a link to all of those and all the stuff that you guys have mentioned in the show notes as well. So if people want to go there, they can. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I've had an absolute blast and really enjoyed talking to you. So if they have not convinced you, you really should listen to The Chosen Ones. It's a fantastic story. It's got utterly superb animation. It's got some great character drawings as well. And it's a very RP-heavy podcast, so give it a listen. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you on the next podcast. And that was our Chosen Ones cast interview. We hope you enjoyed it. We're a monthly podcast on the history of tabletop role-playing games. If you enjoyed this episode, then please give us a review on your podcast directory of choice. Those 5 stars really do help with visibility. If you'd like to go the extra mile and throw some change in our hat, we've now got a Patreon account. Details can be found in the show notes. If you'd like to get in touch, we can be found on Twitter at SavePodcast or on Facebook by searching for Roll to Save. Our email is roll.to.save.pod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and tune in to the next episode for more RPG history.
Are you looking for a D&D podcast with a dark side? Something more like Game of Thrones and less like Monty Python? Tale of the Manticore is part dark fantasy audio drama, part solo D&D RPG. There's no plot armor here. The dice make all the important decisions. Join me as I resurrect the excitement, wonder, and emotion of old-school D&D. Made for a mature audience, Tale of the Manticore is both a fiction and a game. It's the story where chaos rolls.